Growing Indian online gaming scenario has my attention now, more than ever.
Thank you. That's really long. So, thank you for your patience. Now, I guess enough of what, let's get on to the how. So, I take great pleasure in inviting our special guest today, Dr. Trivikraman Thampy. He is the co-CEO and co-founder of Game 24/7. Actually, Thampy, as he is fondly known, and that's how I usually refer, on him as well. He he's an alumnus of Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, and he has done his PhD in economics from the New York University. Thampy has really spearheaded the strategic thinking and decision making of the company, including several successful product releases, marketing campaigns, and of course leading the company through various rounds of funding, including the latest one led by Malabar Investment, which valued the company at $2.5 million, which gave us that the unicorn status. Thampy has also really helped shape, focus the company's attention on children's welfare. And it's an issue that is very close to the heart of the founders. In fact, he serves on the International Advisory Board of the Kailash Satyarthi Children's Foundation, which is the eponymous foundation of the Nobel Peace Laureate, Mr. Kailash Satyarthi. So without further ado, I will now Thampy up on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a very hand.
I was just saying, this is absolutely incredible. Like when we started our journey. By the way, before I do that, Avin said the man behind all of this. I want to make a couple of corrections to that. One, one of my closest friends and co-founding partners, Avin Pandya. So he's obviously also the man behind all of this. And even more importantly, as me and Bhavin always say in our company, amazing companies are built by amazing teams, and really everything that we have built today, a glimpse of which you got on the screen up here, is kudos and testament to the very talented, incredible team that we have managed to assimilate. So I just wanted to, add to that. On what's happening in India with gaming and what I'm seeing here and outside over the last few days, I mean, it's just, I don't think me and Bhavin could have imagined this 16 years ago when we started Games 24/7. It's just, it's inspiring for me. It's humbling. It's just awesome what's happening in the Indian gaming space. I look behind to see how many people raised their hands when Avin asked how many of you are developing games, and there were quite a lot. And then Avin asked how many of you have made enough money to break even, and then obviously very few went up. But that's fine. These are early stages. It takes time to succeed. It takes perseverance. The most incredible thing is that there's just so much interest in this space. There's a massive amount of potential. I mean, I always tell this to investors when I speak to them that, 15 years ago, when we started this journey, we would tell investors, in 10, 15 years from now, India will be where China was back then. And we were more than right. And we tell the same thing to investors today. By the way, nobody back then believed us that India would become a multi-billion-dollar gaming market. And today we see the same trend lines. Our view is today India is a $2.5 billion market. By 2030, it's a $20 to $30 billion market. So all I'd say is keep plugging away, like keep the enthusiasm going, keep the energy going, and this is a huge opportunity in the Indian space right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess everyone here is actually then, I'm sure even me, right, like all of us, really keep thinking about your journey, right? Because your journey started from engineering to economics and then setting up the most valuable multi-gaming platforms in the country. Like, how did it all start?
Yeah, I mean, it is an unusual journey. I mean, the one thing I've always tried to do after engineering, the reason I went into engineering is because there was two reasons. One, my parents wanted me to do that, and two, everybody around me was doing that. But once I was in engineering, like I think since then, for the most part, I followed my heart. What do I really enjoy? Not what's going to make me more money, not what's going to bring me fame, but what do I really enjoy? I've tried to follow my heart. When I was in engineering, I fell in love with economics. Still love the subject. In fact, a lot of what I've learned in economics, particularly in behavioral economics, it's helped us a lot in our business. And then when I went over to study economics, I went to NYU to study economics, which is where I met Avin. It was interesting how we met. I think both of us, for very different reasons, were very disillusioned with academic economics. I went to economics with a lot of passion. I wanted to solve, I'm not sure how many of you here follow monetary policy, fiscal policy, but I had a lot of interest in it. I wanted to solve real world practical problems. Avin came with a very kindred spirit and heart and wanted to solve the world's poverty problem. And we came in and started studying very, very academic theoretical courses, and both of us realized this is not what we want to be doing. And what did we end up doing? We ended up playing games in the computer lab. Different games. Avin used to play different kinds of games. I was playing different games, but that's how we ran into each other. And again, I think both of us followed our hearts. We loved gaming. We grew up playing a lot of games. I mean, I go back. I don't know how many people here know the old Prince of Persia game. I don't know how many people here have played it. Yeah. So that's how far back I go with games. That's where my journey started. And then we saw, we were in the US and we saw what an incredible opportunity India was. This is back in 2004, 2005. And we just jumped in. Avin was again the brave one, which is why the correction is very important. Avin quit his fully funded PhD program, dropped out of it, went to India, literally started our office. People talk about basement garages. That's where literally our office was for the first many months. Neither one of us could write much code. Neither one of us knew how to do game design. Neither one of us was artists. All we had with us was passion and a belief that this thing would work. And that's what kept us going. I mean, I can't even imagine how many times we ran into situations where it felt like this is going to come to an end in the next 30 days or in the next week. We just, perseverance, that's what eventually kept us going and brought us here.
I mean, I know I've been part of the journey, but every time I hear you say this, it's always so inspiring. Because I try to start up my own stuff, and perseverance part is the key. It's just have to plug it away. In fact, the good thing right now, and I've been here for 3 days, and what I've been seeing is that a lot of people are just going ahead and setting up their own sort of small teams, right, and then making games, and all of us today are living this stage of entrepreneurship, right, So, for the folks here, right, want to build one, what are the core tenets according to you of building a company?
Listen, everybody is going to discover their own tenets. There's no such thing as a golden set of tenets or one right way to do things. The most important thing is whatever you choose, whatever the way you choose to do things, and I'll talk a little bit about how we choose to do things, right? Be true to it, be consistent with it. That's actually far more important. As far as we are concerned, I started out by saying that in the beginning, one of the most fundamental tenets of our business has always been that it's not amazing people, amazing individuals, or amazing amounts of capital, or amazing amounts of ideas that build great businesses. It's amazing teams. So that's the first thing I would tell anybody. At least that's been our experience. You cannot build everything by yourself. You're going to need more people. You're going to need partners, colleagues, friends, whoever you work with. You need to make sure that they fit into what your value system is, into the things that you think that are important to build a great business. Like one of the biggest, I've seen so many startups fail because founders or people who are at the early stage don't see eye to eye on things. They didn't fully align on what they wanted to achieve. And that's super critical. And then as you continue to build your team going forward, ensuring that you can say the same thing, that we have an amazing team, because that's the one thing that will keep you going through good times and through bad. And then after that, we as a business, we have a stall here. The way we define our culture is what we call the science of gaming. And I'll take a couple of minutes to talk about what it means. But the first step for us after you've got the right team, and again, this is an area where I think a lot of entrepreneurs fail, is that lack of clarity of goals. Now it sounds very simple, but people really struggle on that. What exactly specifically is my goal, and does the entire team agree on what the goal is? Unless you get that right, it's quite likely, and in fact happens almost inevitably, that people are moving in different directions. And once you set your goal, for us, probably one of the most important starting points in the journey to build a business, always, and the kind of people we want to bring into our business, has always been user centricity. Living and breathing your user. If you don't do that, nothing else matters. Like, you really need to understand your user, and this doesn't mean gut feel understanding of user, right? That's obviously very important. You are the user. But speaking to your user, studying data of the users, really understanding at the core what the users want, what their pain points are. And once you've got that, then we come to the true part, and this has actually been something that I feel has really separated us from the rest of the market. That is, we are extraordinarily scientific in how we do things. We're deep questioners. We question everything. We challenge conventional wisdom. Those are the kind of people we love to work with. We love people who stand up and say, why? And then why again? And then why again? And that are very objective in how they go about making their decisions. Trust data, respect data. A lot of people who are in game development have fantastic ideas. They're bursting with creative energy. They play games, they come up with excellent ideas, and they want to do that. But at the end of the day, your game's only going to be successful if somebody is willing to come back, play it again and again and again, and pay you for your efforts. The best way to get there, in our opinion, is to question deeply, be very objective, respect data. At least that's what worked for us. Again, as I started out by saying, that different things are going to work for different people, but for us, that's been phenomenally successful. And last but not the least, there is no way you can succeed without pushing boundaries. We constantly push boundaries on what we can do. A lot of the content that Avin showed you here, there's a lot of pushing boundaries in there in terms of innovation, in terms of new things that we're trying. That doesn't mean it works. A lot of things that Avin showed you here, we showed you on the screen, doesn't work. It doesn't actually work. Some of it does, some of it works very well, and that's just life. You're going to try 10 things, 9 are going to work, and 9 are not going to work, and 1 will. But you have to constantly keep pushing boundaries to find that one big success.
I hope, these are, I would call it actually words of wisdom. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think as Thampy said, I think when you have defined your own goal and what you what is your goal to be, I think the key part is making sure that whoever is part of your team is aligned to that limit. I think that is very important to say. Make sure that there is a disconnect there. And if all of you are moving towards that one vision, eventually you will get the dispersion. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Right? Just also want to focus a bit more on you as well, right? Like, what are top three things that drive you as a person?
I'm constantly looking for growth. Every single day of my life, I want to be a better father, want to be a better husband. That's very hard, very, very hard. Be a better partner, be a better colleague, be a better manager. But most important, be a better student of human, in our case, player behavior. My best moments, my most rewarding moments are when I learn something new about users that I didn't know before, that then enables us, helps us to deliver a better experience to them. That's growth. That's the only single thing I personally look for in my life every single day.
I guess that has been driving for everything, right?
Forever. That's been driving me from day one till today. I mean, my horizons for growth have expanded, in terms of where all I'm seeking growth. As I said, I love human behavior, so beyond, back to that, I'm a student of neuroscience, neurobiology, very interested in quantum physics, very hard to understand. But I'm constantly looking for growth, hopefully even spiritual growth. That's my mantra. Like that's what keeps me going.
That's what basically just broaden your horizon, keep make sure that you're always becoming a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
Always just.
And it's amazing how much you can learn. Like there's this incredible book by Daniel Kahneman. It's actually a very old book. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow. It's in my view a must read for anybody who wants to start understanding how people behave. There's just so much, and by the way, it's not something new. This book was written decades ago. There's so much more literature on human behavior now. But for anybody who wants to provide great user experiences, at the end of the day, you want to understand your players. If you want to understand your players are human beings like anybody else. You need to understand human behavior. That's at least been, in my view, and that's how I try to do my job.
Let me just switch the track here a bit, right? Go back to something that you said that when having started, you guys just had the vision and passion that you know how to code, you know how to design, right? But you still been build teams, right? You started with a team of 20 and now it's about 800 now, right? So the question here that I guess a lot of people will also want to know is how important is specialization? And right now we have a lot of in the field of specialization, right, we have a lot of specialized degrees, participations coming up. It's very one in sector, right? How important is that? And then also, what is the quality of qualification that you need to be important as an engagement? And I know that you're actually companies very high engagement. That's how close you have been to ensure that both crossing the companies always everything.
Yeah. Specialization is key, man. Like it's just, listen, everybody who works in our company does what they do better than me. Everybody. I don't think I do anybody's job. I can do anybody's job better than them, and that's really the trick. When you go to start, things are different. You have to do everything. I didn't know how to do design. I was not a creative artist. I didn't know how to code. Obviously, I could not code, but me and Bharat, in the early stages of business, we had to do everything. When I say had to do everything, it to be involved in it. Today's world, in the gaming world, like as enthusiastic as people are over here, fact of the matter is it's a very, very competitive market. And you need highly specialized skills to make it big in the gaming space. You're going to need, talented game designers. You're going to need really very, very creative artists. You're going to need talented engineers. You're going to need the data scientists and the AI engineers, who can not just help you bring intelligence into everything that you're doing, but also help you bring in substantial efficiency into everything that you're doing. You're going to need very rigorous, very analytical product managers, and marketing managers. These are all becoming very, very specialized skill sets. You're going to need all of them. Now that sounds very daunting for somebody who started a business with only 2 people or 3 people. But I wouldn't worry that much about it. Just have your eyes on that. You're not going to be able to hire all of these people on day one. Chances are, if you're a game developer, you are the designer, you're probably the artist, you're also writing the code. And that's okay. But over time, you're going to have to build a team that has all these specialized skill sets if you want to take a shot at the big prize. If you want to grow and grow and keep growing, you're going to have to build a very diverse set of specialized skill sets in your business. In terms of what we look for, obviously, I mean, you're part of the business, you know what we look for. But again, if I had to say a couple of things that I always look for, and obviously here I have a bias, right? Because that's what drives me, is the desire to learn. Is this person who wants to learn and grow? It's something that is most important to me personally when I'm trying to get into the business. Are they willing to question conventional wisdom? Do they ask why often enough, or do they just accept what they're told? And are they analytically rigorous in how they do things? A lot of people think analytically rigorous and data is, just too dry. But trust me, once you start doing it, once you start uncovering insights, when you get deeper into data, it's just so much fun and it's so rewarding when you learn something new about a user and then can go and use that to build even better experiences for them.
Got it. So I guess specialization is important, right? Make sure that figure out what you want to do and get good at it. And while you do that, I guess one good piece of advice I would say is that's how we believe, how we work. And it's that you keep learning, right? You never stop learning. Make sure you're curious, not just about what we specialize in, but what is what's the implication of that? How does it benefit the user? How is it going to help? You always keep questioning that, and that's what it is. But then let's also go to the other end. I mean, of course, I'm sure there will be people like you as well who here eventually who would really want to build their own company, budding entrepreneurs here. Maybe or may not specialize in something, but they have that passion and drive to make it big. So, what is the one piece of advice you want to give to budding entrepreneurs?
Yeah. Man, entrepreneurship is hard. I'm sorry, it's just, and it's one of the bravest things in my view somebody chooses to do. Because the odds are so heavily stacked against you. If you look at any objective data, the chances of an entrepreneur succeeding is just a fact, and hopefully everybody knows this, right? You're walking into this, whoever the entrepreneur is walking into it with eyes wide open, is very low. The chances of success are low, which is why the passion, the perseverance, matters tremendously. You have to follow what you believe. But by that I don't mean blind passion. Again, you'll find me, because it is such an integral part of our culture, and what's helped us grow, you'll find me coming back to this point again and again and again, that always, challenge your passion, challenge your intuition with actual data and information. Intuition is very powerful. Most people who are entrepreneurs, who choose to become entrepreneurs, who become successful entrepreneurs, are people who have some powerful intuition about some need, some desire, some pain point that certain set of human beings somewhere on the planet are experiencing. They have very powerful intuitions. So obviously, you can't just disregard your intuition. That's what leads you to becoming an entrepreneur. But then that intuition has to be challenged. It can't just be blindly trusted. I can tell you so often, my intuition has been wrong. I know so often Avin's intuition has been wrong. Every single person in the company, intuitions are often wrong. They just are. And the way we challenge our intuitions is by more or less testing everything. We're fearless in following our intuition, in following our belief, in following our passions, but then we are also super scientific in testing them. And when the tests tell us that, hey, your intuition was wrong, then we humbly back off. And that, in my view, in our experience, is definitely one of the soundest ways that you can follow to succeed in your business. This is not to say that there are not other kinds of successful entrepreneurs, right? There are people who make big gut calls, big gut calls without testing them and succeed. As a statistician, I would say, but for every one person who made that big gut call and succeeded without testing it, there are probably 99 others who failed, and you just know about that one successful one. So the best way in our view, as I said, to succeed is to follow your intuition, follow your passion, but keep challenging it, keep testing it.
Got it. Let me move on to my final question, and then we'll open it up for questions from the audience. But this one basically then proves out, right? And we see like we started with it and various rounds of funding have been there, how that has taken place, and now we've got a various round of funding which is also given to the company that valuation which is very content. But then like is like what article is here as well and for you, right? Is funding and valuation what you have done?
Well, I can't speak to people who are here, right? I can speak about myself. No, I mean, it's funding and valuation to us, to me at least, me and Avin, is the result of the game. What I have enjoyed, and this is what I have hopefully talked through most of my conversation here, is the journey itself, the journey of growth. And if you're enjoying the journey, and in our case, we have consistently followed the tenets that we believe in, the values that we believe in, all the good things arrive. The funding, the valuation, they're the results of the game. They're not the game themselves. If you're not having fun playing the game, it's just, that's the most important thing, guys. You've got to have fun doing what you're doing. I have fun growing, learning. Right? Whatever it is that appeals to you, you must have fun doing that. The funding and the valuation is the destination. And trust me, like me and Bhavin worked tremendously hard, and then one day we were a unicorn. And it was like, okay, what's next? Right? That's how it's going to feel. Like once you eventually hit a big milestone. It's the journey that's really the fun part of things. For us, definitely it's been the journey, and I'm sure as you look back, it's the journey that you'll recall with fondness. And if you're not enjoying that, just life becomes very, very hard. The other thing I would say is, in that journey, and I keep coming back to this again and again, right? Like, just have to be disciplined in focusing on what's right for the user. That's what's kept us going. Like in our business, you will see far more spreadsheets than you will see PowerPoints. That's just who we are as a business. I think at the end of the day, if your goal is to delight users, which is what it should be if you're game developers, then you really want to ask, am I actually delighting my users? Not that I feel that I'm delighting my users, not that I love my game, but whether my users love my game. Right? Are they coming back to the game? Are they monetizing? If your D1 retention for your games is not north of at least 40%, ideally 45%, no matter how much you love your game, the hard truth is that your users don't love your game. And if your D30 retention, D30 retention or D7 retention is not in the 15 to 20% range at least, again, no matter how much you like your game, your users probably don't. That realization is extremely important. I think one of the mistakes that a lot of game developers make is that their passion takes them with one game too far out and too long. You have to know, you have to have the discipline, the humility to accept that, you know what, I might love this game, but I don't think my users do. It's time to move on and do something else. Most of the games you saw up there, not all of them, but most of them, we dropped. We didn't hit our targets. It was very tough. You worked 3 months, 6 months, 9 months to put that game out. You're super passionate about it. You put the game out. You know, you tweak it, you fine tune it, you adjust this, you look at the funnels, you change this, you change that. The metrics don't move. It's tough, it's hard, it's brutal, it's painful. You gotta drop it and move on and get to the next game. That is the only way to succeed in this space.
I think that definitely resonates with what we've been doing, right? And if I go back to the first question about whether funding is the end game or whether it's the end game, definitely, I mean, like you said, right, we did catch that valuation, but for us it was, you know, fine, let's just keep doing what we have always been doing. We never even celebrated that fact, right? Like we just kept on doing what we have been doing. And
celebrate the journey.
Yes.
You know, right. I don't think we wait for milestones to celebrate.
Correct, that's right, yeah.
It's good to celebrate with milestones, but you gotta celebrate the journey.
And the journey is definitely, it's gonna have a lot of roadblocks, a lot of, like you said, right, very tough calls to make. But the key message here would be that you guys should be open to making those tough decisions, right? I mean, that's how it has to be. Make sure that you understand the business and actually measure what the user is doing. I think, you know, gut feel is one part, or we feel the game is good, but you have to get to the numbers. There's no way around it. However, that is
Yep. Well, those numbers are the way your users are speaking to you. Yeah. They're speaking to you through those numbers. If you don't listen to those numbers, you're not listening to your users.
Right. So I hope, you know, please learn from what we have learned, the kind of, you know, things that we have gone through, and I hope this really helps, you know, all of on your journey as well. With that note, Thampy, thanks a lot for, you know, answering my questions. I would want to open it for audience, you know, any questions that you guys may have, please, you know, feel free to ask in terms of, you know, how it is actually about building a company and what barriers are there.
Hi, my name is Nalin Savara, and I run a company called Dark Tech. I'm curious, what are the failures you experienced? Tell us about some or several of the failures you experienced during your journey and how you overcame them.
How much time do we have? So many of them. Let's see. I think for this audience, let's just take 2021. I don't know how many of you follow our fantasy sports game, My 11 Circle. But we ran I'll just talk through one. There's so many. I think it'll take me a long time to walk through failures, and it is through a lot of failures that you eventually learn and arrive at successes. We ran this campaign during the last Cricket World Cup, where we got very, very excited about building a campaign that was based on, a marketing campaign that was based on patriotism. India's playing the World Cup. You know, obviously Indians are, all of us are very patriotic people. We want India to win the World Cup, and we ran a campaign which was, you know, every time India wins. So I don't know how many of you here play fantasy sports, but obviously you go on the platform, you make a team, there's a contest, you join a contest with an entry fee, and there are prizes for, you know, whoever team does best. And so we ran a campaign where we said basically that every time India wins, you will double your winnings. We were very excited about it, that people are patriotic, we're going to find that bridge between patriotism and cricket and fantasy sports. And we were wrong. People are patriotic, obviously. People do watch cricket with a lot of zeal and enthusiasm and passion, and they want their team to win. They're not playing fantasy sports because they're patriotic. They're playing fantasy sports for entirely different reasons. That campaign didn't work. But it taught us something very, very important. So that was definitely one. In new games, a few of the games that Avin splashed here, and I think it's better to talk through in that case what some of our learnings were. So the games that we are building usually have, and most of the games that you guys will build will have a core component and a meta, right? I mean, a meta on a game is more or less a given right now. So I'm not going to name a game right now, but let's take game X that we did, it didn't work, right? And obviously we followed the discipline of, hey, it's not hitting the retention targets we wanted to hit, so we're going to drop it, we're going to move on. But the bigger question is, why did it not work? You don't just drop things and move on, right? What we in our company called why centricity. Like, you want to keep asking why until you just can't ask why anymore. And so we broke that down. Now, this is a hard exercise. We said, did the game not work because the core game doesn't work? Or did the game not work because the meta doesn't work? This is a hard thing to test. It's not an easy thing to test. But we did it, and it takes time. It takes time, it takes effort, and one could be wondering, you know what, it doesn't work, let's move on, let's do another game. But if you don't learn, then you're going to probably make the same mistake again. And so when we did some of these tests, we realized that it wasn't the meta that was causing the problem. In fact, the meta actually does work. It's the core game itself that has poor retention. So now why is that useful? That's useful because if the meta works, now I can use this meta on another core game. If I didn't know that, core and the meta go out together. They have no value for me and I just move on. And there's so much effort that I put into the game that I've lost. Does that help? Is that what you were looking for in terms of your question?
Yeah, great. Yeah, great. I mean, that's a good answer. It also helps me understand how you think of things. Because if I were thinking, I would think more in terms of the people and the gameplay than in terms of philosophical or statistical factors like you're describing. So that's an educated.
Well, the gameplay you dig into, that's the first thing you do when a game doesn't work. Like, we track everything in the game. So we'll go through every step in the game to see where the drop-offs are happening and then try to fix those. So that's a given, you have to do that. But sometimes, even after you do all of that, the game doesn't work. Then you got to ask the bigger question. Like, okay, what is it? What is it about my game that's actually not working? Our approach always is, failure is fine. We're not afraid to fail. We're afraid to not learn. I just want to learn every time I fail, because every time I learn from my failure, my probability of success goes up in the future.
Got it. Thank you so much.
That's exactly what I wanted to add. Failure is not the problem. Are we learning from it? Is what I think we are out of time.
Just one last question.
Can we take one other question? Okay. Maybe we take one last question. Go ahead.
Mr. Thampy, you mentioned about building great teams, which is a key factor for building. Would want to know what are some key learnings in building teams and maybe some don'ts. I am asking it from we are into physical play for kids since last 15 years. We build toys for kids. We are now trying to move into the game digital experiences for kids. And it's been 6 months since we are trying to build the team, and we want to know what are the key things that we need to keep in mind when building teams.
Yeah, let me try. With regards to your specific question. Number one, I'll always go back to user centricity, right? So if you're building something for kids, you need a team that really understands kids. That's number one. If you don't understand how kids behave, how kids make decisions, what drives them, if you're sitting in hopefully that's not what you're doing. If you're sitting in some vacuum, having some theoretical ideas about what kids like, that's a problem. And even if your understanding, obviously, I don't know how young people are. I have 2 children. I have a fairly good understanding of my children, but in statistical terms, that's 2 data points. That's all it is, right? So the first thing would be like getting a better understanding of children. So if I was hiring people, and I don't know what stage of the business you are at and what position you are hiring, but especially if you're hiring people in product or marketing or design, they have to be people who really understand children, like what children want, why children desire toys, what gets them going, and how their needs and desires are changing. Like that's absolutely number one. I think this would be true for any business, no matter what your core ethos is. And the second thing I would say, beyond the other things that I said, right, we tend to hire people who are obviously very, very scientific in their thinking, because we just believe that probabilistically that's the best way to arrive at success. So you want very analytically rigorous people. But the other thing I would add is, we do not like to hire rock stars who are not good team players. We always want to find people. I am happy working with above average people who are fantastic team players. I never want to work with rock stars who think they can capture the world by themselves. So if I had to kind of, as quick an answer I can give, like those are the two kind of must-haves or must-not-haves that I would say if you're trying to, hire and build a team.
Right. Thank you, Avin. I guess we're out of time. I'd like to just thanks for the session here. Thanks a lot for